So yesterday, Donald Trump turned his troll game on. And look at what he said about Biden here. He tweeted, "Look at this photograph," with all caps and exclamation point. That is such a Trumpian tweet. Now, you could be forgiven for looking at that and say, what is he talking about? Well, that's kind of the point. It gets you to click the video, which is right underneath. So look at what was in that video.
Have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Look at this photograph.
So he's referring to this story. Fox News uncovers photo of Joe and Hunter Biden with Ukrainian company board member. So yeah, you guys know the story by now. But Joe Biden's son, when Joe Biden was VP, he was getting $50,000 a month from a Ukrainian energy firm. That's not good. That's not okay. Now, the only counter-argument I've really seen from Democrats is like, well, but this happens. People sit on boards and they get paid. Are we going to pretend like there wasn't sketchy stuff going on behind the scenes here? Because we also know other stories about Joe Biden and his family. Like the Politico's article, Biden Inc. is fascinating. It goes into details about Joe Biden's entire family. He has relatives who became lobbyists that overlapped with his committee assignments. He has family members who profited off of the Iraq war while he was overseeing the occupation of Iraq. So there's so much there. And if the best counter argument you have is like, yeah, but this is business as usual. But that's the problem. That's the problem. You want to technicality people to death and say, well, this is not necessarily illegal or anything necessarily. Fine, you can make that argument, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. But what I am saying is, this shouldn't be the way it works. This shouldn't be the way it works. And that's why I've been referring to this as Clinton Foundation Denialism 2.0, because if you remember, back during the 2016 election, anytime there was a story about the Clinton Foundation, doesn't matter who the source was. Like David Sirota did a lot of superb reporting on this, and David Sirota is not a right-wing dude. This wasn't like part of an anti-Clinton conspiracy or anything like that. David Sirota reported a lot of stuff about all the problems with the Clinton Foundation, all the pay-to-play corruption, Bill Clinton going to give speeches in these Gulf states, these theocratic dictatorships, and getting millions of dollars, and then Hillary Clinton approving weapons deals for said countries. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. And what did people do? What did the Democrats do? Conspiracy theories! Whenever Trump would bring it up, conspiracy! There he goes again with the conspiracy theories. There he goes again. And guess what? People are not that dumb. And they were like, yeah, you're full of shit. And I think he's correct about this one. Doesn't mean Trump's a good person. Doesn't mean he's right about other stuff. Doesn't mean he should be president. But it does mean that on this specific issue, yeah, he's kind of got a point, doesn't he? And this is exactly what we're doing all over again with Biden and Ukraine. Now, this is, what was I telling you guys? You can go back and check the segments. They're only a week old. I'm telling you that the reason why you should never go all in on impeachment on a narrow issue like this is because the counter argument is just as strong, if not stronger, than the argument the Democrats are making. By the way, the Democrats are also correct when they say President of the United States shouldn't be fishing around for dirt on his political opponents by calling foreign governments. That's insane. You can't do that, and you shouldn't do that. But at the same time, it's also the case that Biden and his entire family shouldn't be as corrupt as they are and shouldn't cash in on his public profile and then turn around and play holier than thou and act like, how dare you besmirch my great legacy? Yes. Besmirch your great legacy. Or you're a political insider and a hack and an elite, and this really is just ripping the mask off. Because it is. So I'm so sick of the holier than thou nonsense. This is corruption. This isn't okay. This shouldn't have happened. And just because Trump is the one pointing at it doesn't mean it's wrong, but that's all they have is to just say, it's Trump, so it's wrong. Well, good luck making that argument to the country because it ain't going to work. And I'm sorry, but dog, he's trolling you to perfection here. This is a really good troll. Don't lie, this is a really good troll. It's hilarious. It's on top of him being right about this issue, it's also hilarious. Like, I don't know anything about my son's business dealings with Ukraine. Oh, really? And what does he do? Package it up in a nice, funny little video. And I'm sure he didn't make the video, of course. He doesn't know how to edit anything. But I'm sure he jacked it from one of the pro-Trump pages or whatever. And he ran with it. So he tweeted it. And he made a joke about it. Look at this photograph. And watch what's going to happen. What's happening right now? You already guessed it. The "how dare you, sir" is in full effect. I swear to God, man, every time I watch these political back and forths, I'm sitting here cringing. I'm like, yet again, here we are. We're faced with a scenario where Democratic strategists couldn't do a worse job. They couldn't do a worse job rebutting Trump. Do you have any idea how monumentally easy it is to defeat this idiot? It's the easiest thing in the world. If I was running against him, I would embarrass him. I would curb stomp him. But they don't know how to deal with him. They don't know how to deal with him, and they always he finds their weakness and he exploits it, and then they over-defend and look silly. That's what this is. He's finding the weakness. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there was nothing weird or sketchy going on with your son getting $50,000 a month. I'm sure you know nothing about that. And then they're like, no, I don't know anything, and this isn't a problem, and this is a conspiracy theory. Oh, shit, you found the photograph? That's wrong, bad. There's nothing to see here or anything, and how dare you, sir? And then what happened today? Nickelback did a copyright strike on the frickin' song in the video, and now everybody's walking around like they won. See, Democrats have now defeated Trump because Nickelback is against them. Weak as fuck, dog. Weak as... Admit it. This clip is hilarious, and he's trolling to perfection. And this is another example of, when you're deep enough inside that liberal bubble, you can start to think that, no, seriously, he's so bad and he's so wrong that nothing he does is positive, nothing he does works, and we're just crushing him 1,000 ways to Sunday. And that's just not the case in the real world. Nobody is more anti-Trump than me, but it's not hard to see that he's winning this exchange right now. There was also a press conference the other day where he was, berating the reporters for asking questions on the Ukraine issue, and all the coverage of that in mainstream, he was like, meltdown, presidential meltdown, so unhinged. But then you go and you check, Trump's circles and what they're saying, and they're all like, this is the best performance he's ever given, ever. He's schooling the media. He's exposing them as fake news. He's showing how biased they are. They're not even willing to admit the obvious about Joe Biden and his son and the corruption in Ukraine. And here we are again, Russiagate 2.0 in many ways. Because in Russiagate, every 8 seconds, a story would come out and they'd be like, the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. And then what would happen? Nothing would happen. And then what did I tell you? I said, there's no way Mueller's going to get anything on collusion. And then what happened? Mueller didn't get anything on collusion. And then all the people who were saying that I was wrong all along, they never owned up to it. And they were never like, oh yeah, by the way, Kyle was right the entire time. They never said that. And they're still pretending like they're right, even though it's obviously true that nothing happened on collusion. It's obviously the case. But they don't admit that. And now here we are again. We're right back to stuff like that, where you have a case where, yes, what Trump did was wrong. I'm not denying that. Nobody's denying that. I mean, maybe he's denying that because he's also over-defending himself because he's also a jackass. But yes, what Trump did was wrong. You don't fish for dirt on your political opponents. But you have to admit that counter-argument of hey guys, there is dirt there and I have proof. You want to know what the proof is? Well, look at this photograph. He's going to relentlessly make his case. He's going to relentlessly go on the offense, and he will succeed in making this a wash. And then what do you have? You got nothing. You're standing there when the dust clears with your dick in your hand going, oh, shit. What do we get out of this? That's right, you got nothing. Because he's exploiting your weaknesses, and you're over-defending, and you're somehow becoming just as silly as he is. And I hate to see it. I hate to see it, but it's happening. This is exactly what's happening. And this was a good troll from Trump. And, hey guys, just so everybody knows, it doesn't have to be Trump versus Biden in the general. He's the weakest candidate of all the candidates. He's so insanely weak. It's monumentally weak. It's next level weak stuff. So if you're concerned about electability, you should be #NeverBiden. Because this is just a little preview of how severely Donald Trump will cuck Joe Biden in the general election. He will cuck him so severely that Biden himself will end up voting for Donald Trump. And it does us no favors to pretend like that isn't the case, to pretend like Trump didn't win this exchange. And also, by the way, it does us no favors to bring up silly-ass terms like, false equivalence. No, this isn't a false equivalence. Sometimes there's an actual equivalence. And here's the equivalence. Trump also is corrupt, insanely corrupt with his DC hotels, violating the Emoluments Clause, taking money from foreign governments, doing them favors, insanely corrupt. Trump also shouldn't be fishing for dirt on his political opponents from foreign governments. That's all true. But it's also true that Joe Biden is corrupt. And you can't pretend like that's not the case. And if you do pretend like that's not the case, you lose. There's no false equivalence there. There's an actual equivalence there. And the more you pretend like it's a false equivalence, the more you feed into the idea that maybe Joe Biden can beat Trump. And I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to take it. He's insanely weak. Trump is already curb stomping him, and we're not even in a general election. And he's going to have no rebuttal to this except, yet again, one version or another of, how dare you, sir? Yes. Oh, don't besmirch my good family name, yes. Fuck your family name. Step aside. Let a real candidate run. It's got to be Bernie versus Trump. Bernie will destroy this guy, and these antics would have no impact on him.